Okay, ladies and gents, this is 7030 Fitness and the exercise library for back exercises. So we're going to start off with our vertical pulls, which is going to be anything which we're pulling down towards your body. So for the first one is a lat pull down. Now with this exercise you want to concentrate on drawing your elbows towards the ground, and you're bringing the bar to just below your chin and then getting a full stretch on the way up. So you can feel that your lats stretch at the top and then contract at the bottom. This movement is going to be hitting your lats primarily. You'll also get a little bit of upper back trap and bicep activation. Now here we've got a neutral grip pull down. You don't have to use these handle attachments, but it is a useful way because the actual attachment is pretty rare. Not many gyms have it. It looks like this, but if you do have it, utilize that. Otherwise you can use this. The advantage of a neutral grip is it's a lot safer on your wrists. It moves with your body, so the contraction on your lats is a little bit easier. With a lat pull down, generally people tend to find struggle a little bit with contractions, so if you do, neutral grip's the way to go. Next we've got a close grip pull down, which is a triangle attachment. This is going to hit a little bit more of your traps, your upper back, rather than your lats, but it's still a good variation to have in your workouts. Again, it's pulling down the elbows towards the ground, and you're going to about chest level with this one, so just below your chin into your chest, and you can really squeeze your upper back in that position. So we've got pull-ups. You probably won't all have this in your program, as not everybody can do pull-ups correctly, or without or with weight, but the way in which we do it is a similar movement to a lat pull down, but instead of drawing your elbows down towards the ground, you're kind of pulling your chest up towards the bar. Then we can also do a variation of that exercise, but with a supinated grip, so that's palms towards you, and those are chin-ups. The only difference between a chin-up and a pull-up is your grip position, so supinated or pronated. Supinated is hands towards your body, pronated is hands facing away from your body. We've then got a dual cable pull down, which is just two free moving cables. It doesn't have to be on a lat pull down machine. You could use a cable machine that you can see over in the right hand corner of the screen. You could easily use that with two cables pulling down. It just allows for a little bit more freedom of movement. See how I can bring my hands together a little bit closer at the top, pull out a little bit further at the bottom. Now we're going on to our horizontal pulls. So this is going to be pulling from in front of you towards your chest rather than from above you towards your chest. Bent over row is the first exercise. You can see that I'm keeping my back completely flat. I'm not arching over. I'm making sure the bar comes just below my knee, and then I'm driving it towards my hips. Again, driving the elbows backwards. On every back exercise, if you kind of visualize where your elbows are going to be going, what the direction that they're going to be going in, you're probably in the right direction. Pendlay rows, basically a barbell row, but you come all the way down to the ground to reset yourself, and then you go back up again. So it's like a strict version of a barbell row, and it just means that you can take out a little bit of momentum. It is a little bit more pressure on your lower back, so you will have to make sure that this form is impeccable, and keep the weight over your feet, just like we would with a deadlift. Next is the easy bar row, or EZ bar row. Basically, we're going to have our palms supinated, so facing upwards, and we're going to drive our elbows back just like on the barbell row. It makes it a little bit more comfortable on the wrists as well, because the bar is bent rather than completely straight, and supinated grip will hit your biceps a bit more too. Landmine row next. This is a pretty simple setup, but can look a bit complicated. Simply a bar in the corner, or you can put it in a T-bar row setup, and you're going to be pulling the same sort of motion that you would be with any row movement, elbows pulling backwards, and you really focus on contracting and stretching out your lat. You've got one foot out to the side to give yourself some support, and then the other two limbs, so one arm and one knee, are on the bench to add more support there. So it takes a lot of pressure from your lower back because it's very supported. Another very supported exercise is the bench supported dumbbell row. Now the bench supported dumbbell row means that your chest is into the bench, you can drive your elbows back, and there's no movement going through your lower back at all, so there's no weight loaded through your lower back. So if you've been quite fatigued in your lower back or something like that, we can use this exercise to utilize more support. Next we've got a single arm dumbbell row, and the reason I'm doing this with 2 feet is just for a little bit more movement. Some people like to put 1 foot up on the bench. I prefer this way, and I will dictate that you do this way. You can see that I bring the dumbbell a little bit further in front of me and then drive it back in like a little arcing movement. That's much better for your lat contractions. Same with this movement, it's just a high position dumbbell row. You can see I sweep in, I over exaggerate this a little bit more, so you can get the idea. I sweep in and I sweep out. It's an arcing movement on a row. It's not just a straight up and down. If you go straight up and down, you'll be using your traps, your rear delts, and not really isolating your lats and your back so much. So try and make sure that you're getting a sweeping motion in there. Machine row now. So many gyms have different kinds of machines, but essentially they are all very similar. We're going to be concentrating that pad in your chest is as far back as it can go with you reaching the bar, and then we're going to drive the elbows back and down. Try and make sure that we're going elbows back and then down. That's going to make a much better contraction in your lats. Next up we've got a cable pullover. Now the cable pullover, if you are able to use 2 ropes, is the ideal position, because then we can get a little bit further of a contraction pulling around your body. If not, just use the 1 cable. We're sweeping our arms, so our arms don't stay locked out, but they have a little bend in them, but the main pull from this movement is our back. We're not using our triceps overly. They will have a bit of contraction there, but we're focusing on sweeping the cable down using your lats to contract. So it's a arcing movement again. And then the same movement again, a rope cable pullover, but this time supported with the bench. So if you find that you've been using a bit too much momentum on the cable pullover, this is a good alternative, or if for example we haven't seen much progression in your lat pullover throughout this block, then maybe the next block we would look at adding in some support and making the form a bit stricter, or vice versa. We could find that we progress it very well and we're quite strong, and then if you're limited with weight, you can just add in a support. So the seal row. Now this exercise is a bit of a weird setup, and not every gym I'm sure will be able to do this, but some gyms do have a higher bench. If you do, brilliant, you can use a seal row. It basically is a double armed dumbbell row, but again it's supported, and because we're horizontal, it's a very strict rowing movement rather than being on an angle with the incline bench. A good movement in my opinion, very good movement. So a supported single arm cable row, and this one is again another one of my favorites. Allows for quite a lot of weight to be used, and because it's a cable there's a lot of time under tension. So pulling again, driving the elbows back. I'll say it again just to reiterate that point. Drive the elbows back, lead with your elbows, and try and get your lat muscle as short as you can at the top and then as long as you can at the bottom. So really stretch it out and contract it. Cable row, again, plenty of gyms have proper cable row machines, but essentially it's the same. We're going to be driving elbows back, keeping your chest and upper body in a very similar position. It's okay to use a little bit of momentum, but try and stay within that sort of range of movement. And then when we drive it back, we try and keep that strict still, so you're not leaning back on the cable. Rack pulls. Now, just a normal rack pull pulls from above the knee. So correct rack pull is from above the knee, and it will hit a little bit of back, it will hit a little bit of traps. It is a bit of a all-round exercise because you will also hit a bit of your hamstrings and glutes, but for this workout we're focusing on the back and loading plenty of weight through your back. Rack pulls you can go very heavy on. So the next setup for rack pulls is the below the knee rack pull. Now it makes it a little bit more difficult, a little bit more similar to a deadlift, because we're having a little bit more range of movement, but nevertheless it is a good movement. It's loading your lats through a small range of movement, but also loading your traps. So traps make up part of your back, which is why I put it in this section. Lastly, we've got shrugs, which is another exercise for your traps, and this exercise is simply raising your shoulders up in a shrugging movement. Try and think about spreading your lats when you come to the top and slowly controlling the eccentric, the portion on the way down. So all the way up, contract, slowly down, contract, slowly down. That's the movement we want to be aiming for with the shrugs.